Thank you, Ken. Thank you for the valuable information. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. I do expect a very spirited conversation, an open and honest conversation with the panel. We have some very highly esteemed and intelligent people on the panel as well as in the audience. This is a community grouping, so I would ask, just again, for some housekeeping rules, if you could silence your cell phones, one. Two, if we could minimize the outbursts and let people speak. Everybody will get a chance to speak. We still have some seats up here, so don't be afraid. We have some seats up here. You can come in and join in. You don't have to necessarily stand on the outskirts. With that, we'll begin. I don't think I necessarily introduced myself. My name is Earl Bloodworth. I am the new director for the Mayor's Initiative for Reentry Affairs, dealing with reentry and individuals coming home from prison and getting them right so they don't go back into prison. I'm happy to partner with Central Connecticut State University and IMRP in this venture to have this community conversation. And with that, if the panel can please begin to introduce yourselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanya Hughes, and I am the Executive Director of the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. I'm happy to be here this evening. While I am not a native of Bridgeport, I am a long-term resident of Bridgeport, having been married to my husband, Larry, for 22 years, and he's here with me tonight, the tall gray beard in the middle of the room. Also joining me this evening is Cheryl Sharp. She's one of the attorneys from my agency, and she's also the deputy director and over our outreach and education department. And she's also my sharpshooter and fact checker. Also is our regional manager, Jamie Rubin, and our office is located just around the corner at 350 Fairfield Avenue on the 6th floor. I see a lot of friends in the audience tonight. It's so good to see you all here. I have enjoyed a hearty relationship with the city of Bridgeport for the past 26 years. I started with the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities as a staff attorney investigating cases in the Bridgeport Regional Office. I, in fact, was one of the first investigators on the Alvin Penn investigation. So I'm very closely related to the topic that we're here to speak about this evening. I served as regional manager at CHRO for 19 years before being appointed as executive director of CHRO in 2013. And that's when I joined the team with Ken to work on the racial profiling work. And we worked hard about getting CHRO included on a notification slip so that people would know where to direct their complaints as well as their compliments about any treatment that they receive from the police departments throughout the state of Connecticut. And it's important to note that because the police departments are very important to all of us. I, in fact, received a notification on my phone just this evening, and I shared that with one of the officers, that on my ringtone, there was a neighborhood notification about an attempted robbery in my neighborhood, and the person was captured because they notified the Bridgeport police and they came right away. So we aren't only here to complain, but also to compliment when the compliment needs to be had. So thank you. CHRO has a special relationship as the state primary enforcement authority to investigate complaints of discrimination, including those filed by employees as well as public citizens in response to complaints of racial profiling. And we have a designated persons in our legal department that will work specifically to handle complaints alleging racial profiling. As a resident of Bridgeport, I have a personal vested interest in the data that was revealed and discussed by Ken. Bridgeport, it revealed that Bridgeport is the only municipal department with above average statistics, and this saddens me. However, I am encouraged this evening by the amount of Bridgeport officials that have thought it not robbery to join us this evening and to hear the courageous and fearless conversations that need to be had from not only the police officials, but the public. There's a lot of progress that has been made in the city of Bridgeport, but a lot more that needs to be had, not only in Bridgeport, but throughout the state of Connecticut. I think the biggest thing we have to do is act. And what I mean by that is acknowledge that the problem exists, commit to making changes to improve the standing in our community, and then to train the workforce and the community on implicit and cultural biases that exist so that we can successfully coexist. While we want to hold officers accountable, CHRO is not here to be the gotcha. We want to eliminate discrimination throughout the state of Connecticut, and we're here to assist in any training that needs to be had. We're certified trainers to train people on implicit bias, so please reach out to us, as well as to take advantage of our sexual harassment training that has been put in place free of charge to individuals as well as employers, and we've had tens of thousands of hits to our website just since October 1. So the mission of the CHRO is to eliminate discrimination throughout the state of Connecticut through enforcement, education, and outreach. You can find us at ct.gov/CHRO. We're here to help you and assist you and to fervently enforce the state laws in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
My name is AJ Perez. I am the Chief of Police for the City of Bridgeport, and I'm very happy to be here myself. And I see a lot of friends in the audience, people that I work with day in and day out. And you're right. This is something that, we all have to work together and get through it. Alvin Penn was a very good friend of mine. I spent a lot of times in joyous moments with him and his family, and he is sadly missed to this day. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Assistant Chief Rebecca Garcia. I am the newly appointed Assistant Chief for the City of Bridgeport's Police Department. I am here this evening actually very much wanting to know the concerns of our department, of our community, so that we can better service our community and make the necessary changes that are obviously pointed out and continue moving forward with our community and with our PD. Thank you for coming.
I'm Deputy Chief James Baraha. I'm currently the fourth in command of the Bridgeport Police Department, basically charged with operations. So I'm day-to-daily tasked with, enforcing all the rules and regulations in the Bridgeport Police Department, and also fostering whatever changes the chief and assistant chief want.
I'm Ernie Newton, member of the City Council, former state rep, former senator. And they asked me to just share a little bit about Senator Penn and why this bill came before the legislature. Senator Penn was driving in Trumbull. I don't know if he got lost, I doubt it. He was stopped. And he was questioned. Most legislators have their plates. He was questioned. And he didn't feel that it was right for whatever the officer said to him made sense. He said to me when he came back, he said, Ernie, we have to do something about these profiling of police officers. I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, listen, I don't want you to lead it. I'm going to lead this because there's going to be some repercussions when I bring this bill forward. He brought the profiling bill in 1999. And I can tell you, he caught hell. I co-sponsored it in the House, and he didn't tell a lie. Out of the 169 towns and cities that's made up in this city, in this state, they laughed because They felt we don't have to do nothing. Shortly after that, I had my 100th time of being stopped, but this one was unique. I was driving to Burlington Coat Factory in Stratford. Right there at the corner of Main Street and Barnum Avenue, there's a light to turn to go towards Burlington. I made the right, light was green. Cop car put his flashing lights on, I pulled into Burlington. On my car, I had my state representative plates, deputy speaker of the House, the whole 9 yards. Asked for my registration, driver's license, I gave it to him. Goes to his car, does whatever he does. He came back to the car, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. He said, "Oh, you're Senator Penn." I didn't say nothing. I didn't get upset because I didn't want to get arrested. I went to Chief LaChavo, who was the chief of police of Stratford at that time, and I told him what his officer had done. Not only did they do that, they had like 10 cop cars like I was some sort of monster. So you can imagine what Senator Penn went through and what other people went through just to bring a bill of this profiling, because we get it every day. So it wasn't easy. And he caught hell. Every police department in the state of Connecticut was on the lookout for Senator Alvin Penn because he challenged the system. And they didn't do anything those first few years. It just sat there. You just heard the story. They felt, we ain't listening to that. I'll say this, the only way we're going to make it really work, and I will talk to our senators and our state reps, is that we've got to put some teeth in it. That will hold police departments really accountable. And if that means cutting funding, if that means doing something dramatic so that they can comply. So we got a long ways to go, even with the law, of getting people to comply. So that's who Senator Penn was. And it still happens today, that we are being stopped at a higher rate than any other race of people that drive cars for whatever reason. And we've got to do something, and I'm glad the chief is here because we've got a serious problem right here in Bridgeport that has to be addressed. So that's the part on Senator Alvin Penn, and we should thank him for having the courage along with the other Black and Hispanic caucus, because that bill didn't pass by a lot. There were a lot of people against that bill. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kirk Wesley. I'm here simply as a regular community representative. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Bloodworth for inviting me to be a part of this important discussion. And before I speak on like how racial profiling has impacted me or affects me, I just want to preface my remarks and conversation with saying that I'm here speaking on this issue, and I want to frame that conversation around respect, and respect specifically around 3 Ps. I respect the police. I respect the police because I know the police have a tough job. My father was a police officer. So my father, I knew how it was to have a father who went to work every day and not knowing if he would come back home. So I respect the police, I respect what they do, and I respect their efforts. I respect the people. I respect, when I say the people, I respect all people, but I mean particularly this community of people, the community of Bridgeport. Now, sometimes the police might not feel a part of this community, but this is our community, this is my community. So I respect the people and I respect the police. I also respect policy. And with all due respect to policy, you can't legislate character. right? So you can write all the laws that you want. You can, the Alvin Penn bill is 20 years old. And yet here we are talking about racial profiling in Bridgeport 20 years later. So with all due respect to policy, that I do respect and I believe in laws of the land, you can't legislate character, and many times the people who are hired by the police department lack character. So those are the 3 Ps that I want to frame my conversation around as I talk about, as we discuss this conversation. And for me, how racial profiling affects me, it's like I'm a black man living in Bridgeport. Not only that, culturally, I've been raised to, like I said, my dad was a cop, but outside of that, my dad was a black man. And, you know, sometimes being a black man supersedes your job, right? So I understand that culturally, the police have been have affected and really targeted disproportionately people of color, particularly black people, particularly black men. So I understand that this is an issue. And then when you look at me personally, right, I'm someone that is an ex-offender. I've been arrested, been to prison. Now I have my pardon and really transformed my life, right? The whole good old story about that. However, there are people in this community who are affected by the implicit biases, as Ms. Tanya just mentioned, the implicit biases of people who grew up in a culture that may look at people in this community as subservient or a lower class of others, right? As someone who grew up in the streets of Bridgeport and, you know, ran the streets pretty much, you know, we were taught not to trust the police, not to believe not to believe in the police or believe anything the police can do to help us. Now, as a 34-year-old adult, you know, I really don't want to teach those things to my son. But however, there's nothing that indicates that those biases and that culture has changed. When you look at the Bridgeport Police Department, and as Ken said in the study, when 42% of the traffic stops are black people, you know, that's a problem. When you have a deputy chief of police that had to retire because of racist text messages and things like that, that's a problem. And, you know, listen, we might want to gloss it over or play nice about it, but again, I'm here representing the everyday person that I engage with and know the challenges they face with the police department. Now, racial profiling has affected me directly as a black man in this city and my friends and people that I know in simple things like tints, right? People, I've been in cars with people with tints and they get pulled over for their tints. Then it's 5 cars behind them. Now we're getting searched. Now we're out the car. Now we're in the back of the police car because of tints. What else? Seat belts. Oh, they love that one. They love to pull you over for seatbelt violations. And again, it's a law. I respect the law. But a seatbelt violation should not lead to a search of your entire vehicle. What else? Turning without a signal. Now, a lot of times that's garbage, you know, but that's anything that they can use to stop you. And again, I'm framing this around, please remember my 3 Ps, because I don't have a problem with anybody, but I'm talking about my real life experiences and how racial profile has affected me. So thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.